And Senator Brown and Congressman Kucinich this morning at the industry roundtable mentioned the fact that while the delegation is bipartisan, as a matter of fact, they speak with one voice when it comes to space. And my experience has been there is no room between any of them when it comes to space issues. That's good and bad. It's bad if they don't agree with you. And as I mentioned in my remarks, in the area of exploration, we are trying to reach common ground.
One of the unique traditions of the City Club is the inclusion of young people in all of the programs. And I know that you have, you serve as a role model for young people all over the country, and you oftentimes speak to them. Could you give us in short form some of the messages you like to deliver as a role model?
I have it's not 3 words, I have a 3-phrase message that I give everywhere I go. And I give it to adults and kids because I think it's important. It's number 1 is you have to study really hard. And you have to work really hard. And when I define work as being focus when you're, when you're doing something. If you're in the classroom, focus on whatever the subject happens to be at the time. When you're out, if you're going to be a LeBron James, when you're on the basketball court, focus on basketball and forget about the academics. But you've got to be able to do those 2 things. And then the third is you cannot be afraid of failure. So those are I give them all over the world and to kids and adults because I think we can learn a lot. We tend to think when we grow up we don't have to study anymore, and that's not true. The reason I can't answer his question is because I didn't do my homework well enough, but in NASA we do so much stuff that it boggles the imagination what goes on in my building that I don't know about. And it's not bad. It's just that we do so much that it is just physically impossible for me to keep up with everything that's going on. But I'm not embarrassed or ashamed to say I don't know, and I don't know. So, but we've got to study, we've got to work, and we cannot be afraid of failure. Yeah. We cannot be afraid of accepting challenges to who we are and what we do. And when I talk about study, kids always ask, what do I study? I said, okay, you got to focus on math and science, but you need to know a foreign language. And the reason you need to know the foreign language is because usually, for those of you who have taken foreign language from elementary school until college, usually culture, some cultural education goes along with that foreign language. One of our problems is we don't understand other cultures and we seem not to care sometimes. And we cannot survive in today's world unless we are somewhat compassionate about other cultures that are different from ours. I said earlier, the reason Cleveland, I think, is so great is because you all have been forced, maybe you don't accept each other's culture, but I can tell you, you know it. When you go into the Polish section of town to get some kielbasa or whatever it is, you know it's good. And, and when somebody strikes up their accordion, makes you tap your toes, whether you're a person who loves the blues or whatever. And that's what I have always found incredible about coming to this city. And there are a number of cities like that throughout the country. But Cleveland is, and I mean this, it's perhaps the richest city I've been in that regard. Yeah.
General. General, with the end of these shuttle flights, what are your expectations for the future of the Hubble telescope?
With the coming of the end of the shuttle program. Hubble is, what's my expectation? Hubble will continue to be an absolutely incredible observatory for perhaps the next 15 years. Now that, you got to remember, Hubble is in its 20th year this year. This is the 20th anniversary of Hubble. If Hubble had done what we thought it would do, it would have been extinct about 15 years ago. It was originally put on orbit, and we thought we could get 5 years. We were doing pretty well. It was designed for revisit. That was one good thing, and so shuttle enabled us to do that. But I think given the fact that we now have 6 completely operating instruments on board the observatory, new batteries, a lot of other stuff, the future of Hubble, I think, is really incredibly bright. And you always get in trouble when you guess about time. But I would guess that Hubble will probably outlive our ability to pay for it, you know. And the reason I say that is because it costs money to do data. You all know what I mean. I'm not saying it very well. You get all this data down to the ground, and then you got to process it. And that's what's expensive. It's not, I mean, it's cheap to get it to the ground, but then you've got to process the data. And Hubble has an incredible wealth of data, but it costs a lot of money to process it.
To the City Club, and we're really happy that you were able to be here. I just have a really quick question. I know that my perception of the space program compared to even my parents' perception of the space program is completely different. And can you talk really briefly about what NASA is doing to get young people engaged and enthused about NASA and space travel?
I explained to people that what NASA is undergoing this year is a generational change. That's the best way I can describe it. One of the reasons that the president's proposed budget is so viscerally opposed by some and just incredibly embraced by others, it depends on which side of the age spectrum you sit. If you're a college student or a graduate student or one of these kids back here, anytime they see what we're getting ready to do, they get really, really excited. You know, the fact that they're going to go to space on a commercially produced and operated rocket, that doesn't make any difference to them. They're just going to space. What is important is that somebody is going to invest money in their education. Somebody is looking at new ways of doing things that we've never thought about before. So it's a generational change. And what I try to share with them, and I will when I have an opportunity to talk to them for a little while before we leave, is that they've really got to dream big, but they've got to work hard. You know, got to study. I always tell kids, I said, you know, when I was a kid, I would put a book under my pillow. Now, this may sound stupid. I would put a book under my pillow and hope that it would, by osmosis. I mean, my mother was a librarian. My father was a history teacher, taught history and civics. And he was my high school. This is another whole story. I'd be here forever. I had a double role model in my dad. He was an incredible father, but he was the best football coach in the world. And I was a lousy football player. But he mentored me both as a father and a coach. And for anybody here, male or female, you know what a coach means, or a band leader, or somebody like that. So I was blessed. My mother was my librarian. I was a library assistant for her, so in both cases. But my mother taught me to read, and she always read and always wrote. I never learned to write. But I would put a pillow under my head, hoping that the stuff would go in by osmosis. Didn't work. I got a tape recorder, put that under my pillow, hoping that I could listen to it. Didn't work. You got to study. You know, I got to that conclusion. Thanks very much.
Today at the City Club, we've been listening to a Friday Forum featuring NASA Administrator Charles F. Bolden. Thank you, Administrator Bolden, for your terrific and passionate presentation. To our elected officials, to the NASA executives, students, and astronauts here in the audience, thank you to every one of you for coming today. This program is now adjourned.
For information on upcoming speakers or for podcasts of the City Club, go to cityclub.org.